AskReddit by Insert Burns here. What is the biggest unsolved mystery in human history? Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Arthur C. Clarke. I'm not sure if you'd call this unsolved or frankly even solvable. But there are two trees found in parts of Central America, called the Chechen tree and the choca tree. The Chechen tree's bark has a poison that is so strong that just by touching the bark, or its sap of course, your skin will begin to numb. The cure to this exact poison lies in its sister tree, the choca. And as if that wasn't enough all on its own, what's more, they are always found to be right next to each other in nature. There is a Mayan myth that comes with these trees that they are from two brothers that fought each other over the love of a woman, but they ended up killing each other, and the woman, Nikta, died of heartbreak. One of the brothers, Kinich, was kind and caring, and thus became the choca tree. The other brother, Tizik, was cold-hearted and arrogant, and became the Chechen tree. Poisons and cures found in nature are of course a reality in many different instances, but the fact that these trees are right next to each other in nature, and provide exactly opposite effects, is pretty crazy. An active one in the archaeology world is the exact time frame of when humans made it to the Americas. The date keeps getting pushed back with more controversial discoveries that then just turn to evidence as they pile up. It's a fascinating story to see unfold. Yeah, I like this one too. I think many of the traces of early settlement are likely submerged. Sea levels were much lower during the Ice Age and the majority of human settlements are along the coast, so a huge piece of our history is probably lying on the seafloor completely undisturbed and possibly well preserved. In Australia, in 2011, someone broke into a TV station and spent 4 hours flushing $100,000 down the toilet. B pooper. I read these threads and wonder how many disappeared people are homeless transients with no memory of who they are. There must be considerable overlap, I imagine. Just saw an article about a woman believed to be dead for 30 years found in Puerto Rico. She left her Baptist husband and family to just live out her life and PR, but mental illness was what prompted her move without telling anyone, and her dementia was what helped them figure out who she was and where she was from. Sad. So the monarch butterfly migrates to Mexico and back every year. During the year there are a full 4 generations of butterflies that live and die during the journey. Upon returning back from Mexico, the butterfly manages to find the same trees its relatives started out at despite never having been there. What's even more amazing is that every 4th generation of monarchs live considerably longer so they can make the migration. Who was behind the Gardner Museum heist? Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of art was taken, and we have little to no clue who was behind it, and none of the paintings have surfaced. One of my favorite unsolved mysteries. If you've not heard the podcast Last Seen, give it a listen. We like to think we understand the universe and that physics is a well-grounded discipline, and in some ways it is. However, we have no idea what dark matter or dark energy is, and yet we think it makes up 27% and 68% of the universe respectively. We still don't understand gravity that well. Our understanding of physics is still in its infancy. Why is there something rather than nothing is still pretty much a dim-ho. Yeah, what fucks with my mind is either something came from nothing or there was always something. If I think too long about it, it breaks my brain. The final words of the Emperor Titus were, "I have but one regret. We don't know and never will what that regret was." Edit. On reflection, it's even better, I have made but one mistake. Supreme confidence. His only regret was that he had bonitis. That most of human history isn't documented, and we will never know our entire history as a species. We didn't start recording our history until 5000 BCE. We do know we shifted to agrarian societies around 10,000 BCE, but beyond that we have no idea what we were like as a species. We will never know the undocumented parts of our history that spans tens of thousands of years. We are often baffled by the technological progress of our ancient ancestors, like those in Asia who must have been masters of the sea to have colonized the variety of islands there and sailed vast stretches of ocean to land on Australia and New Zealand. What is ironic is we currently have an immense amount of information about our world today and the limited documented history of our early days as a species, but that is only a small fraction of our entire history. What's crazy to think is New Zealand didn't have humans until the RST%20 settlers %20 probably %20 arrived. Discover %20 new %20 Zealand %20 was %20 cube. It's a pretty recently settled area. Neither medicine nor science has an answer for what consciousness is, or where it originates. Emergence as a concept is crazy. Like an atom of an orange doesn't contain orangeness, but if you put billions of them together then they do. I don't know about biggest, but I always thought the Voynich manuscript was very interesting. A huge book written in an unknown language or cipher that has never been translated or decoded with diagrams of plant species that don't exist. Lots of theories surrounding it, but no definitive answers as to the origins or the content. My favorite theory is it is an ancient version of a game not unlike Dungeons and Dragons, and someone was simply inventing fictional things for the purpose of game. Why did we all just globally decide that those blue Dutch cookie tins hold sewing supplies? A few years ago I found myself finally in possession of enough random buttons and such that I figured I could use a designated container to hold my sewing supplies, and I found myself thinking, oh hey, this could work well regarding one of those blue Dutch cookie tins. I also decided at that moment, ah fuck, I must be getting old, but I used that tin anyway. It's in my craft bin downstairs right now with sewing supplies in it. In its defense, it is a puncture-proof container, which makes it good for all the pokies that come with sewing. Deleted. How the universe is even possible? Why the fuck do we even exist? Does the universe have an end? If so, what's beyond it? What was there before the universe? No one knows exactly who founded Rome, or when. All known records of the city's early history date from the 5th or 6th century BC at the earliest, which doesn't help the usual foundation date of 753 BC, and all of the foundation myths are exactly that, stories. All we know with any certainty is that Rome was ruled by kings at some point in its early history. But we don't know who founded Rome. If it really was by a Romulus type figure, or if it was multiple villages that eventually merged into a single town. Even with the latter possibility, it's unknown when those communities would have considered themselves as a single town or when they decided to call it Rome. Romulus, hey, what should we call this city? Rebus, I was thinking Reme. Romulus, grabs spear. I love unsolved mysteries, but one that always gets me is the murder of Missy Bevers. She was killed in the early morning at a church that she taught yoga at. Security footage from the church showed the murderer roaming the halls of the church all night, but that's not what's weird. What's weird is that the murderer was dressed head to toe in police riot gear. It is the weirdest and eeriest video footage and is just unsettling. There's lots of theories, but her murder has never been solved, and I believe there hasn't even been a real suspect in the case. I don't know about all night, but the too big shoes always freak me out too. The lead mask mystery of Brazil. The bodies of two men found wearing lead masks covering their eyes with a notebook that mysteriously read 4:30 p.m. be at the determined place 6:30 p.m. swallow capsules, after effect, protect metals, wait for signal in Portuguese. Read up on it a little. One theory revolves around the testimony of a friend of the two men, who claimed that they were members of a group of scientific spiritualists. The men were apparently attempting to contact extraterrestrials or spirits using psychedelic drugs. Believing that such an encounter would be accompanied by blinding light, the men cut metal masks to shield their eyes and may have died of drug overdoses. This account is corroborated by the esoteric diary entry found at the scene and by mask making materials and literature concerning spirits found at the men's homes. Why is the letter D in fridge, but not in refrigerator? Refrigerator knocked me out of the 5th grade spelling bee. That damn D. Back in 2002 I folded and placed $3 100 bills in my back right pocket while standing in my living room. I grabbed my wallet from the bar, walked to the front door where I decided it was safer to transfer the $100s to my wallet. My pocket was empty. There was no one else home. I looked everywhere for more than an hour. This episode has seriously damaged my sanity and self-esteem. You only thought you put them in your pocket. You actually dropped them just behind you. They floated lazily for a moment before slipping perfectly between the grills of the horizontal vent on the side of your bar, at floor level. At which point I found them, because I live in your ducts. You fed my family for 2 years with that money, and I will never forget it. We are your vassals, and will come to your aid should another house lord rise against you. When I was a kid I was playing with a bouncy ball in my room. It had rolled under my bed and I went to go grab it. Absolutely nothing was under the bed. Being a small child with an attention span of a goldfish, I started to play with Legos instead. A couple minutes later the ball rolled out from under the bed, seemingly from nowhere. I don't like that one bit. Imhotep was a super genius in ancient Egypt, around 2700 BC. He was, allegedly, an amazing physician, the architect of one of the first proto-pyramids, invented a bunch of stuff. A century after his death, people started worshipping him as the god of medicine. And yet, his tomb has never been found. To me, that's fascinating. He must have been given an amazing burial, and if his tomb were ever found, we'd probably discover some really cool stuff. But its location is still unknown. I often wonder if he used his giant brain to design and or hide his own tomb so well that no looter, no archaeologist, but I'm being redundant, would ever find it. From what I understand, Imhotep was basically like Leonardo da Vinci of his era. Wiki has more on him. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/Imhotep. What was there before the Big Bang? Young Sheldon. Who is going to Long John Silver's enough to keep them around? My Russian Orthodox grandparents every Friday. The disappearance of Asha Degree. 9-year-old Asha Degree disappeared from her home in Shelby, North Carolina on Valentine's Day 2000. She went to bed the night before, and when her mother went to wake her up in the morning, Asha was gone. She was seen walking along Highway 18 at around 4 o'clock in the morning. Several passing motorists saw her, and when one turned around and began to approach her, she left the roadside and ran into a wooded area. It was a cold night and the witness said there was a storm raging when he saw her. She wasn't wearing a jacket or socks. A year after she vanished, a construction worker found her book bag in a wooded area. It was wrapped in a plastic bag. My stepdaughter, 60-yo, schizoaffective bipolar, mental age 6, left the house at 2 a.m. in t-shirt pants, no shoes, temps in the teens. Found in the fields with severe hypothermia at dawn. If she hadn't left the front door open, we'd never have known she was gone. She survived. Probably was delusional psychotic when she left. Did DB Cooper survive or did he die? Right outside of Woodland, Washington, there used to be a restaurant named Ariel's. Once a year they held DB Cooper Days. It was an event where a large group of people scoured the forest trying to find any evidence or money. Then afterwards they got drunk and ate tacos. Who is Jack the Ripper? Who murdered Elizabeth Short? Who murdered John Bennett Ramsey? I'm thinking it was several different people. In India, in the early 2000s, there a creature called the Monkey Man who was attacking the people living in Delhi, and people were so terrified from him that they stopped sleeping in night so that they can protect themselves. We still don't know whether it was real or was it just a rumor that people started believing in. India has some super scary unsolved mysteries. Like the family that committed a mass suicide or the unknown individual, S, who murdered homeless people by dropping boulders on their heads as they slept. Who was behind the max headroom signal hijacking?